who work with us know, and it's really long, that's the actual password for, and it changes for every site. So that's what we're actually using now, even on Indiegogo. That was the problem, was the password wasn't long enough, and like, we're not going to criticize Indiegogo's thing. If they were doing a whole bunch of passwords, we should have got a message, and they shouldn't have been able to delete anything. I could still get in and still change stuff, like change the password and stuff. I'm upset. I'm sure Indiegogo is upset. I'm sure they'll get back and try to make it right. It shouldn't be easy to brute force 8 characters. It, like, literally speaking, it shouldn't be. But it should still be a lot. Okay, this is the thing. When people say, like, we should talk to this person, we're still, like, political. Like, Twitch was like, please stop talking. This is only about video games, and they may come back. We don't want to be political. We want to be apolitical. But when anybody talks to us, that's a conversation point, and they've chosen a side in a discussion that we want no part of. So the whole thing is that I would love to meet some of these guys that you guys are putting in chat. They actually seem like pretty cool people. Not only would I like to just talk to them, but I would like to see if they want to do larger projects. The issue is that right now, until we do the project, until everybody succeeds, until everyone is happy, then people will trust us more. Right now, we're still, it's so new, it's so nebulous, and no one knows where it's going, that I don't want someone to throw their hat into the ring and it to be different. I even think now, like, I thought the t-shirt was good. I talked to people about it. I still think that having something that people can identify with themselves at gaming conventions, that you are for equality and that you will game with everyone, is a really important message. And as I said, I don't want to make any money off of it. I want to make sure that's there. Because, as I said, the narrative is always presented as, like, the internet dislikes women. And it's no, a very vocal majority, vocal minority dislikes women. Overall, most people like women there because women are generally cool, or at least enough of them are that we want them to be in the group. Yeah, no. For the people who have been studying internet security, yes, a password that small is bad. And we should not have used it, but we assume that if there was multiple cracking attempts, we would be notified and we would be basically, like, the account would be knocked down. Apparently, though, it isn't. We now, like, everything is now safe, and we've got, like, a 32 character long password on everything. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna talk about the feminist thing. Like, keep in mind, like, I define myself as a feminist. I actually sometimes refer to me as a selfish feminist because most of the things I do are things that directly benefit me. I like women to make games because I like playing games and I like the games that they play. I think women should be able to work because I basically don't feel like I can entertain somebody 24 hours a day. Most of the reasons why I'm for, like, women's rights are actually things that directly benefit myself. When feminism turns into man hating, like, as I said, it's a very wide tent. As I keep telling people, Sarah Palin identifies as a feminist, and so does Sasha Grey. So, like, there's a lot of people there. I just feel the narrative and the group that's always explaining things is the group that wants to, like, they feel like the only thing we should talk about is how bad men are, and that gets old after a while. Yes, okay. So I'm going to explain the men's rights movement for just 1 second. Uh, just like feminism, how there's like ones that I severely disagree with, there are very few points that I agree with Sarah Palin. With the men's rights movement, there are people that are actually anything that's almost everything that's to do with boys and fathers, making sure that connection stays. Every time I try to find something critical with that, I'm always like, nah, they're okay. Like they may be presenting their case in a way that may be getting them some flack, but it's fine. My thing is that I actually call it emotional drag, but I feel like there's a group in the male rights movement that they look at women and they're like, women get to complain about being oppressed and everybody gives them attention. I want to be that group. I want to do that. And I'm just like, that is the least manly thing you can do. Go out, fight for something, and change the world. Like, that's that's how society views men in general. And I feel like they are getting flack on issues that they shouldn't be getting. There is still like a lot of things that I get critical about, especially on the far right. But my biggest thing about it is it's like, don't complain about a social justice warrior movement by forming your own. Meet people, make friends, make alliances, and show how amazing that you can be. And then hopefully we can reach equality so more men can work in service positions, more men can be stay-at-home dads, more men can break traditional gender roles. Okay, by me talking, like I get a lot of emails that are like, Twitter handle, the Fine Young Capitalist, Twitter handle, other internet celebrity, they know what's going on. And if they don't know what's going on, they fucking know what's going on now because the website went down. They can always contact me. I really want to be apolitical. If I could go back in a time machine and not talk about the women that would cannot be discussed, I would. I really feel that even that relation makes us less equal. Yeah, if you honestly, if you can find a woman that'll work and lets you stay at home and play video games and like take care of the kids, marry that. Like wife that as soon as you can. But again, like right now, both members tend to have to work, so it's like a lot of women don't have the option of being stay-at-home mothers. But more importantly, I mean, again, this is he's going to say men's rights is okay. That'll be quoted out of context. But here's the thing: giving giving men paternity leave so that they can take time off work to learn how to take care of a baby is so important to like break down traditional gender roles. So both men and men can like don't have to be stuck, one being the caring for the children and one working. And right now, especially in the United States, which doesn't even have maternity leave, it's just like it's not that it's a sexist decision. It's just that it's a really good business decision for the man to be the one working because society supports him so much more and they support women being at home. And that's just unfair because there are some men who are better at taking care of women, taking care of children than their wives. And if you identify as a feminist and you won't acknowledge that fact, then you're a hypocrite because it's always supposed to be about equality. Good. Thank you for quoting, if you find a woman that lets you stay at home and play video games, marry that. Yeah, I know. I don't, you guys are really funny. With military in the US has maternity leave for only 2 weeks. I really, especially if the military is trying to attract women. By the way, the military is trying to attract women for specific roles. There's a lot of things that, again, we haven't broken down the gender difference as well, and women tend to be better when you're dealing with complicated social interactions. And a lot of what the American military doing, like the American military is really good at, like point us somewhere and make sure that never exists ever. Like they are really good at destroying things, but what they're moving into like this nation building sort of thing. And believe it or not, having a couple women there or having more women there to help with those kind of things would be a good idea. So you see the military actively recruiting them on one hand and putting weird policies in place. Again, the maternity leave is one. The restrictions on women's hair and how it relates to people of color is a little wonky, but I think they're moving on those policies. Yeah, I will try to read the questions out aloud more. Yes, the American military is really good at destroying things. Thank you for quoting me out of topic again. Are you married? No, I am not. Yeah, I totally need to hold a podcast with a female creator. I totally would love to do that. I don't like trying to attract people to the project. I would much rather work with people. We're doing a manga project as well. Like, I want to make sure people remember that. Like, I have a lot of media contacts and we just make things. I would love to work with one of the manga podcasts. We were talking about doing a miniature-based television show a while back, but it was literally like, do you know who would be really important to be on the show? Internet YouTube celebrities. And we just literally spent a month trying to figure out how to make that relationship happen, and we couldn't. Like, we couldn't find a good, like, a good connection so that it wasn't like us randomly emailing Machinima and being like, yo, we're not scam artists, come on board. I okay, I'm gonna say about 4chan. How familiar are you with 4chan? Um, I still always refer to 4chan as like the collective unconsciousness of the internet, because it's really a lot of ideas, and ideas that get interest happen really fast. I don't think that it has a continual like ideology because it's a bunch of anonymous people. Uh, it's constantly in flux and it's constantly changing, and that's actually like it's a really interesting way for social change. And like people assume because only like really bad things happen, and like the whole point about like why are they supporting you, or like why did they ask for a video on feminist developers. I want to point out that was a really good idea, and that was a topic that wasn't be presented, and we want to do more videos on that because again, you can support women in gaming, but you really should know who you're supporting and what they've done and why it's important. For the lulls, yes, for the lulls. Yeah, well, here's the thing. We have contacts. Okay, they're asking about, since we're not Japan, we shouldn't call it manga. We have contacts in Japan. If you would like us to make it in Japan, we totally can. We're doing a lot of preference in South America just because South America is actually slightly cheaper than Japan, and most of the art is new, and we'd really like to focus on art that isn't being seen. The South American scene it's very weird because their government is actually like giving us great tax benefits. all of the people we're working with are really professional, but they don't have the economic structures to make their own things. And that's why you don't see a lot of independent video game development coming out of South America. So the reason why we're focused on it is that. But by the same token, I don't really care if you guys want us to work with Japan on the next manga project, if you guys want us to even work with, say, Africa on doing a style of art that's completely independent, we would love to do that. We can even do stuff in Canada and like talk about our kind of art, but Canada's really wonky and people just don't know how wonky Canada is. No, 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 no. The women just okay. So the why we keep saying 8%. 8% is like the line in the industry is like I can move the world for 8%. So the reason why the women are being given 8% of the money is because of that. But it's also to okay, this is like a criticism of crowdsourcing in general. But I really appreciate you guys giving the money because you believe in us. But I want to say that you are investing in something, you deserve a return on said investment. So part of the reason why it sounds like why aren't you give like they're still getting 30% of the money that isn't going to charity. Why we're giving why we're making you give your investment back is to kind of destroy that narrative. And the reason why we're doing that is larger companies are now using crowdsourcing to fund productions that don't need crowdsourcing. And I find that really problematic that if you love a television show and if the television show was going, like, if the television movie was going to be made anyways, please don't exploit your fans so that some, guy in a boardroom can have less risk in making it. Like, and my big thing is some of the projects that I'm not going to speak about them specifically, but a lot of the projects had a 90% chance of succeeding, and now with crowdfunding, they have a 99% chance of succeeding, and it's just like, guys, like, the bet was already at 90%, let's not, like, hedge it anymore. Some productions may fail, this production may fail. We might literally go back, and Indiegogo might, like, be completely foolish. I don't think they will be, but it's okay. Some new ideas are good, some new ideas are bad, and the only way we're going to actually do them is by testing them out. I was honest. We were when we started, we were honestly unsure of what ideas women would want to do. Like, would they all be story-based games, or would the games be just so out there that people wouldn't like them? And the problem was that the majority of the games were actually new, but they weren't all out there. When we showed a man the idea, he was like, "I would play this." And like that's why these kind of projects are so important, that you can actually change what it is. And why, again, this is more about AAA publishing than indie publishing, but like why you see so many first person shooters is that people know that works, and they know if they throw enough money at it, they will get a return. All of the games, most of the games that we're doing, we don't know if the public will like them. Your support and your votes show that we'll like them. So now, again, this sounds really stupid, but if EA like looks at, say, Afterlife Empire, and they're like, we should make more of those just because they make money, and we should hire women to make those games. I'm sorry, like, I know that's EA, which is one of the most hated companies in the world, but I do feel that making that happen is worth siding with a bit of evil, okay? Oh, shit. I just called EA evil podcast. The lawyer will love that. I will say that it's hyperbole, and I did not mean it. What did you think of the Vivian James porn? Okay, I'm gonna actually answer this from the feminist perspective. One of the points is that um, one of the things that you have to do when you acknowledge women's rights is you have to give them the same rights as a man. And that means that you may be uncomfortable with some of the things they do and some of the things that they do with their bodies. So the fact that there's already Vivian porn, um, my crucial point here is that a couple of the feminists that I actually work with have done sex work, in not that they've actually had sex with people, but they've done phone sex or they've done camming, and they still identify as a feminist. And my thing is that technically, if you can do if you're comfortable with people doing anything they want with their bodies, then that's something that you have to do. And I just feel that, especially in jobs and especially in the industry in general, people judge women way too much on who they have sex with. And as a man, that's wrong, because I'm not married yet and I still like sex. So I would like it if women weren't judged for actually having sex with me, if for no other reason. It helps them, yay. But so I can have more of it. Yeah, a lot of women do argue that sex work empowers women. A lot of women argue against it. My statement is that they should be allowed to make that choice. This is actually a big issue in Canada. During the last elections, they changed the legislation on how prostitution is being regulated, and we're currently working on this issue, just so that if you're still against women using their bodies, the main reason that I'm for it is I feel that if you're regulating, um, if it's legal, what you can do is you can actually go to the police when something's wrong. So that if somebody is being inducted into being trafficked, or if there's pimps involved, or any of that kind of stuff, you can go to the police. When you restrict it, you make it more difficult for women to go to the police, and then it gets much, much worse for them. The current law that's in Canada is basically it's illegal for men to have sex for money, but it's legal for women, which is it's illegal for the men to pay for sex, but it's okay for the women to provide it, and all that is just like a runaround. And it's just still pushing it underground and pushing it so it's unsafe. And I know that a lot of people don't support. Some people see prostitutes as criminals. A lot of people don't support criminals. And again, as somebody who is basically like, let's do a T-shirt to support the person who really disliked my production, I'm always for equality. And even if I don't like someone, I do think they deserve the protection of the law. And as I said before, unfortunately, I usually found out about this later, but a lot of the women who I deal with have done, at least at some point in their life, something that would constitute sex work. Going to make the same argument for the drug war. It really depends on which drugs you're talking about. We've decriminalized pot here, and you can get it as a prescription, and basically the world didn't collapse. So I'd like to assume that the largest military power in the world, i.e. the United States, would not collapse if they legalized marijuana. I do feel that as you move into harder drugs, we're already having problems with regulation. So again, prescription medication is probably prescription opiates are probably a larger problem than, say, heroin. And a lot of people who actually get into heroin now are doing it by taking prescription abusing prescription opiates, getting to the point where they just can't afford to buy pills and moving to heroin. And as the person pointed out about the drug war, it's like if your problem is prescription pill and if they are an actual gateway to heroin use, then the drug war has failed, especially if speaking marijuana is legalized in particular countries, and all that particularly happens is Domino's does a bit better in the country. Yeah. Okay. So the main thing we did is like the this is about pitches and what the ones we dismissed. The first thing we did is like we just gave everyone a score based upon like if it was possible to make the game, and a lot of ones got zero. The pitch I love is still it's like Grand Theft Auto with better graphics. And I was like, yeah, let's not do that one. A lot of, like, especially people who haven't designed a game before don't understand what's complicated. So a lot of people would talk about, like, moving through giant 3D worlds that were all made of mirrors and glass. And we would be like, please, no. So the main characteristic was to isolate them by that. We then did a breakdown of just how original the idea was, how the person described the aesthetic, if people would buy it, and if it could be monetized in another way, and the creativity and the originality. Those were I can't remember the exact criteria. Those are basically them. I have to say that like my favorite production was Sixth. The one that I thought we should really do was Sixth in like the level. And the reason why it was Sixth was it was a really good idea, but it was a really complicated idea. And we just I said that if any of the other five drop out, this is the one that we would do. And it took a while for the people to get back to us, so I was really hoping someone just wouldn't reply. They all replied. And it's not that I don't like the ideas. I actually like all the ideas. It's just sometimes you do have a favorite child, you're just not supposed to talk about it. I have not played How to Be a Complete Bastard on the Amiga system. I will look it up. The Sith? Why do I keep using the Sith? Because some people don't believe in God, but everybody seems to know who the Sith is, and no one seems to complain. TFYC, why are you so lewd? That's a reasonably good question because most of what I deal with when I'm dealing gender stuff is dealing with sex. Like the reason for a lot of the patriarchy and the reason for a lot of why women are oppressed is directly related to sex. And that being able to actually talk about it in a public setting is important. It is important because if we hide it all, we're not going to be able to talk about these issues. And honestly speaking, the big issue in, women in games, the big issue about why we're getting so much flack and probably why Twitch, took us down on the other channel